second best-selling game at 47 million copies, with only Mario Kart 8 Deluxe selling more. And for whatever reason, it was also breaking physical copy records, specifically in Japan, selling over 8 million units. It was undeniable at this point. This market wanted more cozy games, and they were willing to spend a lot for them. And so, as people online were never running out of good things to say about Fluff Nest, like this user saying they're very high quality, honestly better than most smaller plush companies, I definitely recommend them, Fluff Nest decided to tap into that reputation in order to take the unorthodox route of developing their own cozy game set within the universe of its own plushies, which they called Puff Pals. They would reveal the trailer of this game to the world for the first time during the Wholesome Direct showcase. This is an indie game showcase focused on cozy games that's part of the Summer Game Fest. The game's name is going to be Puff Pals Island Skies. And to say that people were excited about something that seemed to be maybe the first worthy competitor to Animal Crossing was an understatement. Fluff Nest would use its already well-established presence on social media to advertise the game, and since it was directly related to its plushie universe, it didn't feel out of place. It felt just right, and it made people who were already interested in their plushies check out the game too. What would then follow is such an extremely well-executed Kickstarter campaign that you'd think you were dealing with someone who has a PhD in marketing. In reality, though, you were dealing with the Wolf of Wall Street. Around April 7th, 2022, Puff Pals Island Skies would officially launch its crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter with the goal of $75,000. It didn't take long for it, though, to completely eclipse that initial goal, and within just a couple of weeks, it would top over $1 million in funding. And I mean, if you look at the timeline here, by April 30th, 2022, they had $1.3 million. However, what's ridiculously impressive here is that within a week, on May 7th, they had doubled that amount, raising over $2.5 million and calling this campaign an astounding success. This is when Lily would make a personal post thanking everyone for making her dream come true. But hold on a second, let's take a step back here. Social media presence for a plushie company can definitely help with a game like this, but to beat your initial funding goal by 3,300%? How did that even happen exactly? Well, of course, there's a number of factors. Most campaigns on Kickstarters will have stretch goals. The initial goal will be to literally just make the game at its most basic form, but the more money you raise, the more features you unlock, like cooking, fishing, a free pet for all backers, and of course multiplayer at $1 million. That can help with motivation for funding. What also helped is that the Kickstarter itself seemed very professionally made. You had a lot of features already laid out as if they were already being worked on. And the fact that this was going to be not just on PC, but on Mac, mobile, and Switch as well, that made it all the more enticing. But still, it doesn't really explain why they made so much damn money. One could look at the different tiers, like how there were some that were priced at $5,000, allowing you to design your own Puff Pal to be an NPC in the game, for example. Or how for $2,500 each, you could design either an outfit or a pet. Those definitely helped, seeing that every one of those tiers completely sold out. But still, there was one missing piece of the puzzle here that really helped them raise so much money in such a short period of time. And the answer to that, of course, is collections. When I told you about Fluff Nest, I wasn't fully honest when it came to their business. Yeah, they made big, very high quality and soft plushies, but they didn't make them permanent. But one of their main designs was styles. They didn't use these styles, so there was a big factor of quality of their own spheres and styles. This is the driving force that was the vision of this style, which is where it gets to the game. This is part of the reason why their business was so successful. And they spent a lot of money on it. As many of these plushies as they could, there's one sold out. It of course made many pledge, for example, $1 or held a light game for $1 and small. Of course, we might have paid on add-ons and contributed to the total but even $20 total price would be $65, and you count to the total of $2.5 million raised. And here's the deal, seeing that this game had 42,000 backers, all you have to do is divide 2.5 million by 42,000, and you'll see that the average pledge by backers on this game was close to $15 million. Seeing over 30,000 $20 for games and $30 for pledges, it's safe to say that most of them bought an add-on pledge. That Nest would post an update on its Kickstarter. The app seemed like they were on the right track. We'll share some process here on this video call in which they were having with both Lily and David Pentland, as we can see right here on this video call, in which they were having fun designing a tea house. They would also share some processes of the game's development, like its music production. And overall, it seemed like they were on the right Alpha 1.3 with max support. There were a lot of enhancements, updates, patches, bug fixes. I mean, yeah, sure, they were taking their time and being a bit slower, but hey, at least they were doing something, right? Well, who knows? No one could have predicted this at the time, but this innocent post filled with many exciting updates to the game actually really has the meaningful update this game ever. So up until this point, this game was great. Discord and its Kickstarter, not going more than 1 or 2 months without an update. But all of a sudden, since February of 2024, they had not posted anything. And the silence was dead. People were thinking, guys, where's the game? What's going on? So it wasn't until August 5th, 2024, 6 months after their last update, they actually posted something on Kickstarter saying, you may have noticed that we've been quieter than usual with our updates. During this time, we've been taking the curtains to ensure we're right tracking to find our players. While we have updates and streaming, to assure you that markets and speed some things are still finalized, and we're excited about the direction we're headed to sharing more with our customers. Thank you for always supporting us. We can't wait to show you this. Then go ahead and showcase some things we've been working on in traditional games. Alpha sounds like we're very low. As you can see, we're working on some of the full switches to the concept. And we showed off one by one some of the aspects of the live and other things exposed because they can be important to the concept. It was a very lackluster update for Alpha in 6 months. Some backers said things like 5 PM waiting for an update for games. They were updated within 3 months. It's definitely weird that they almost took 6 months for it to come back with such a lackluster update. But hey, we're still hopeful and optimistic. After all, this game raised so much money with backed by successful publishing. And this time, it wasn't an update like the last one. It was a statement written by the CEO and co-founder David Pentland, where he would say, hey everyone, we know you've been eager to hear more about Island Skies, and we appreciate your patience as we've been navigating. First, the game is still coming. We expect to be able to maintain our original timeline within a few months. So, we'll outline a bit of why we've had to stay so quiet and when we can expect things to improve. Following issues with the last year, it was clear that we needed to change how we work. Part of this process was adjusting our contracts to allow them beyond the current contract supports. In the previous form of the contract, rules and two specific outlets to go outside or beyond their mandates, which for obvious reasons they introduced new change from the start. No conflict in terms of agreement. However, it looks like this option check. This process is much longer than our ability to share anything until they were final. Whether the contract is the game process watching the frustration of the community without being able to communicate with them, making Island The balance problem. This statement, like David just mentioned, the issues he was having in his company didn't show any meaningful updates on the game itself. It was out of place. The community this time was not as supportive as the last update. We're still on Alpha 1. This very professional and successful pushing company was losing all the good we were only still before this very disappointing update by David. Off its entire Puff Pals. Seeing that 20% is a large discount, and many of these plushies won't be sold again, people would naturally jump at the opportunity to buy them. As a reminder, Black Friday typically occurs around the end of November. A month would then pass, and by the end even saying that Fluffnest had overcharged them for shipping. You start seeing many stories like this user here saying this happened to them, that they have been emailing them for over a week to get a refund, and that they never responded or even detail how for other plushies $9 for shipping, and for this Black Friday sale they were charging $25. So by this point, Fluffnest's reputation wasn't just being affected by the game's disastrous communication, it was being affected by its once great plushie business, period. And just as people were starting to understand that Fluffnest seemed like they were slowly falling apart, a user had found the trademarks for Island Skies and Puff Pals had been inactive for over a year. But this was far from the only thing they would discover at Life2 points, because they would discover another bombshell. The fact that Puff Pals Island Skies was outsourcing the entire game to Room 8 Studio. Why is that a problem? Well, because it was never communicated, and Puff Pals made itself out to be something made in-house by showing us this very cute little drawing of their team. Anything from a programmer to game designer to a 3D modeler to an animator to a concept artist, and even listing some additional people they were receiving help from, most likely contractors in different domains. This post was made on January 13, 2025. This was the first time some people were realizing that most of this game was outsourced. The fact that Studio 8 was literally the creator of Alpha 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 was still news to the majority of this community. So much for transparency and communication, right? So as people were confronting the fact that Life2 and Puff Pals actors and that they were being scammed by Fluffnest and its plushies, they would finally receive another update on February 8th, 2025 on the Kickstarter. They would say, we're here to let you know that the next Alpha update, Alpha 2, is almost ready to roll out. We're making final adjustments to make sure the islands are ready before we announce the official Alpha 2 release date. This next phase will bring new content and features to the game, and we're incredibly excited for you to play through it. We'll be sharing the Alpha 2 date soon. We appreciate your patience and get everything prepped. We're super excited to get into this next testing phase and hear everyone's thoughts. We then talk about how we haven't shown dates yet, how long why would updates stop? The only updates they have is about plushies. But hey, to be fair, just 19 days later, the game would have another update on its Kickstarter. Maybe they actually meant what they were saying. Maybe their communication was actually going to be regular. They would again start off by saying that they apologize for issues that could disrupt the game's development, that they had solved things like Blade funding, which was impacting something more related to its plushie business, and finally, that there are no financial issues with the project, saying funding has never been considered for the game's development, and we've been very intentional about how we manage finances to ensure that the way we've structured things has not protected the game from this point, and we're confident in that approach. Okay, cool, and they will specify that you can get it if you wanted to by emailing info@fluffnest.com. Look, at this point, this wouldn't really make me feel that good. My feelings can be summed up with this backer's comment saying, oh boy, each time the Kickstarter does an engine change, it means it will never come out. Unreal is a freaking pain for optimization. And that's the thing. You want to release your game on multiple platforms, including mobile, you take it with Unity. Unreal Engine has a reputation of running like shit. And doing this so late into development, it was just red flag after red flag at this point. But hey, you know what? They had given us a date for the first time in before that update got posted, the Fluffnest website would go down for multiple days. People would then look deeper into the lawsuit with Blade funding and find out that why they were being sued is because they were paying on for their business. The Kickstarter is a banking issue, but seeing the of the orders from Black Friday 2024, they were charging shipping. That was very important. But hey, you know what? At least they were keeping this promise of quick communication, because only a couple weeks after their last update on March 13th, 2025, they would post another update saying that Alpha 2 was right on track, detailing their process of moving everything from Unity to Unreal, and admitting that yes, in the short term, this will impact production. In fact, we lost about 4 months of development time to the Switch since we had to rebuild and rework a lot of the systems. However, since moving to Unreal Engine, development has been moving either at the same pace or even twice as fast, depending on the feature. I'm ending this by saying that they'll check in with another update like this one on April 3rd, no matter what. So you know where we're at. 23rd, 2025, a user would make this post on the Code subreddit saying they requested a refund of their balance to Puff February 28th, which they apparently did not see. It's honestly that did contribute to it. And then another one on March 5th. It came through this time, thank fucking God, and there was some back and forth with the email address. All good. It is now March 23rd, and I have yet to receive my patience I will then ask others if they went through the same experience. Then post they know someone that requested a refund as early as January 18th, 2025, and has still not gotten a refund. More they got ghosted, or that they didn't reply, gave their PayPal, and never received their refund. It seemed like PuffPal's claim of them not being in any financial trouble and being financially stable was yet another lie. And speaking of lies, their next update will be on April 17th, 2024. They said that Alpha 2 is still on track to release in the same timeframe, and they will show off some new UI elements. Ending the statement by saying we'll hear from us again with another quick update like this on May 1st. But while people were patiently waiting for this next update, something else occurred. Around April 2025, Fluffnest's website would go back up, and they would have the gall to hold a clearance sale. This user would post on Reddit and say that it's been over 43 days and his order didn't even ship yet. On. Well, it turned out that a few days ago, on May 1st, 2025, people would find out that not only did Fluffnest fire every single one of its employees, but that it was going out of business permanently. Yes, no business. It was known to have very high quality products, just like that, shutting down. This news would be shared on their Fluffnest Discord server, and one of the first things they would say in their statement is that Island Sky's production is secured and will not be affected, that they would have to halt operations related to their physical goods. This was their reasoning. Over the past few years, rising shipping costs significantly stretched our resources. Although we tried to absorb these costs without significantly raising prices, the final shipping prices we received earlier this year were much higher than anticipated, creating a major financial shortfall. We explored several solutions to address the shortfall and minimize customer impact, and until very recently, we believed we had viable paths forward. However, weeks following the recent announcement of tariffs on goods from China, it became clear that the situation had changed, and there was no longer a viable path forward for Fluffnest purchase. At the same time, we were working through refund requests for plush orders, bringing shipments and for customers unhappy with Island Skies. We expected this could create some issues, but the volume of transactions seems to have created much larger issues than this has in the past. This would not be critical on its own, but combined with everything else going on, it has quickly left us with no option. They would end this by saying they're not able to take any new refund requests anymore, but that they would still be honoring all pre-orders. I can't imagine how shocked I would be, not just as someone who pledged to the game, but as a fan of their plushies. This was so incredibly sudden, but the surprises weren't going to stop anytime soon. A couple weeks later, on the 19th of May, people would also find out that Fluffnest has not only permanently shut down, but they got rid of their entire mod and customer service team, which was also serving Puffpal's Island Skies. And at the same time, David, in the Puffpal's Discord, confirmed that due to the situation happening with the plushie company, refunds for Puffpal's Island Skies would be halted. proposed a switch to a time and materials contract to avoid the rigid structure that had caused delays. At that point, we had three options: continue working with Room 8 in the agreement and take on the project themselves, or partner with a different studio. So we decided to stick with Room 8, at least through Alpha, which was going to deliver Alpha 1 and reassess. They would then say that getting to Alpha 1 required an additional $1.5 million in production, mostly funded by an SBA loan we secured in early 2023 for both our core business and Room 8. So already this is a success. We raised $2.5 million halfway through the process, and for whatever reason we thought it would be a good idea to use $1 million for just the first year, even if it's not communication, but instead they continued working and invoicing even after meetings where Fluffnest requested that they pause work to avoid accruing additional debts. So even though they are complete imbeciles when it comes to financial management, here they're alleging that Room 8 helped them hostage. But of course, this is without them detailing how much they had already owed Room 8 when they informed us they couldn't pay the continued service. Now, this was already pretty well. During this time, we sought other funding options, including for interest investors. However, Room 8's continued work with us. Throughout 2024, we continued to negotiate with Room 8 and reached a tentative agreement to switch from a work-for-hire model to a profit-sharing model. However, because of our SBA loan, the new agreement needed to be underwritten and approved by the SBA. While preparing for this process, we discovered significant accounting irregularities that delayed to an existential risk to our business. We were unable to recover the plush side of the business. It took several months of blood, sweat, and tears before we were finally confronted with the reality that the plush business was no longer sustainable. This was a deeply painful realization, and it only became clear very recently. But after replacing an accountant and undertaking we are finally in a position to proceed with the agreement early to What do you mean accounting irregularity? What do you mean accounting? David, the guy who's probably writing this, is the CEO. How are you unaware of the terrible financial situation that we're in, man? They would then say where things stand now. As we approach the agreement, it becomes clear that Room 8's senior management does not have a clear understanding of the project's current state or how much work remains. Because of this, we can't trust the decisions we've already faced. We won't proceed if their leadership presents a plan that directly addresses these issues and takes the necessary steps to Island Skies. In the meantime, we've continued working on the game ourselves. Based on our experience, we don't currently trust Room 8 to deliver a version of Island Skies that meets our standards. So hey man, that's wonderful to hear, but what do you mean we've continued working on the game ourselves? The last 3 years, we will then end this video with looking ahead. Despite everything, we are continuing to push toward Alpha 2. We are committed to delivering the game we promised. We can't provide a date. Our focus is on development, quality, and well-being. We'll share another update on the release date for Alpha 2. Thank you for your patience and with that, this would be the final and within just 24 hours, being understandably very outraged and seeking an answer to explain that this contentment would get silenced by Lily, to the point where they would even delete the Junior chat channel in their Discord server. Some of these disgruntled users would move their discussions to another channel, and guess what? That channel would also get purged too. A month later, around June, people would realize that the address info@fluffnest.com used to refund the game or plushies would just disappear. It didn't exist anymore. And now, when you go to the over 8,600 comments on the Kickstarter page, it is littered with people requesting refunds. And of course, that one guy selling his account with Puff Pals Alpha in it for $5,000. I mean, come on, man. This whole thing was a catastrophe on an apocalyptic level. From an incompetent CEO to a community that was backstabbed to even Lily, the artist that made these cute designs, also participating in the whole silencing movement on Discord. Of course, when this initially happened, people still had many questions. How did it come to this? Well, throughout the second half of 2025, we would start receiving many answers in the form of lawsuits directed towards both Fluffnest and David himself. The same lawsuits that want over $2.1 million in damages. And you can hear that this management or inexperience, this was from the very beginning. All right, so here's the deal. Typically, when you make a purchase with a credit card, you have a chargeback that is independent from the vendor itself. In this case, Kickstarter. You can go to your bank and do a local transaction on your credit. Legally, this works perfectly if you bought something and it wasn't delivered. In this case, it was delivered. But as you can see here, you typically have a chargeback window, with the maximum being PayPal offering a chargeback even after 180 days. The problem, though, was that most people had bought their pledge in 2022. It had been a year. But this limited time window can be bypassed if the company that you paid to provide a service for you declares bankruptcy. So even though a bank has a 60-day window to recharge, if they see that the company you're talking about is facing bankruptcy, they'll refund you the money because, I mean, come on, I'm not going to give you anything if you're facing bankruptcy. The problem is that Fluffnest, even after shutting down, has not filed for bankruptcy. This means that for those backers, they can't initiate a chargeback with the bank because the bank will say that this company is not paying. This, of course, is done on purpose. It's not a coincidence. Fluffnest knows what it's doing. It has the time to hold out the kind of benefits for as long as possible. But this is really the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this behavior. On July 3rd, 2025, David Dubois, a concept artist that worked for the game as a contractor, would make this post on the subreddit detailing that he had worked from 2024 around 30 to 50 hours a week making concept art for the game. He would set in for a regular return so that he would always end up getting paid. In fact, the CEO himself, David Pentland, was in charge of paying him. He would tell us a story in 2023 where he really needed to be paid as soon as possible to pay his rent, and the CEO made sure to pay it the next day. Hey, that's pretty cool, right? Well, around a year later, on May 2024, he was told that they wouldn't need his services anymore. More specifically, they couldn't afford to keep him on the project. They specified that. The artist was devastated, but not exactly surprised. He sent them the last invoice to line everything up, but at the same time, he was also still owed money for March, April, and May 2024. The total amount being over $12,000. Just to confess, some of the work he had done was a bit extra. So he didn't edit his own invoice to be final several months of expenses and pure stress related to the end. He would keep the team asking for payments, hey, the money's coming to work. But of course, the money never came. I had to move back in with his parents. He was ruined financially pretty much. And it took him years to recover. After getting his life back together, he decided to sue Fluffnest. But he was struggling with it. David is refusing to be served anything. You see, getting served is a necessary, extremely important step in suing someone. It means that the person you're suing has received notification that legal action is being taken against them. But for that, they need to be tracked down. They need to be actually handed the piece of paper. If they don't have a permanent address, if they're not in the country, if they're fleeing and doing it on purpose, then technically speaking, they can dodge being served for as long as possible and not face consequences. This was exactly what David Pentland was doing. He was dodging any accountability and making sure that no one could find him to serve him for a lawsuit. Extremely scummy behavior. But the good news is that it's lawsuit. In order to get all this info, I joined the Discord server called Fluffnest. Most of the guys Kickstarter became refugees once they got banned off of the Discord or left it because of the crazy silence and give them. So David Dubois' case was actually filed April 16th. Initially, the hearing was meant to take place on June, but it moved until the 21st of July because no one was able to serve. David Brianna requested the court to allow him to serve David Pentland for a ban by publication. So, a couple weeks later, the judge denied the request because they were illegal. But the good news was that on the 9th of July, David Brianna was finally able to somehow serve David Pentland for a ban. On the 10th of July, the hearing took place. David Pentland did not show up to court. David Brianna argued his case, and within 2 weeks, judgment was entered. This image, of course, is from the Fluffnest case. The court ordered Fluffnest Games to pay David Brianna a total of $11,000. But that was far from the only. Remember Blade Funding, the ones who gave the business loan to Fluffnest? Well, in Fluffnest's Kickstarter update on February 27, 2025, they specified that them being sued by Blade Funding was only due to a banking issue and has since been settled. While of course adding that there were no financial issues with the project. Well, it turns out that for once, they weren't lying. They didn't actually settle with Blade Funding. By settlement, it didn't mean a handshake. They had to pay them a lot of money, and Blade Funding agreed to that. They were going to pay them a total sum of $98,000 and just stop paying it. So because of that, Blade Funding would sue them again. And lucky for them, the verdict was very quick. The judge would order David, Lily, Fluffnest in general to pay back the sum of $98,000. Not a small amount by any means, and this judgment was entered in April 2020. But hey, don't worry, at this point, I'm a lawyer channel because we're not just talking about Blade Funding, we're also talking about another company and the same thing happened to Fluffnest by the name of Funding Futures LLC. On the 12th of May, they would file a commercial trade contract lawsuit against Fluffnest, and guess what? They would also win their case. The judge would order Fluffnest to pay the keeps racking up, baby. Guys, David Pittman is one of the shittiest people I've ever seen. The guy took out loans from just about anyone, including American Express. Yet also travel they're also suing David Pittman directly as an individual. As you can see right here, David Pittman is an individual. David Pittman and they did 7 days of rule. I just want to touch on something just so you can understand. You look at Washington, you say it's 22 pages long, and everything he had a lot of stuff. David Pittman is fine. Literally, okay, whatever, let's get it over with. And the end, let's say the defender. That some people are still hoping that this promise of pre-orders still being delivered. Look, it sucks to see anyone get scammed, but I don't know. I guess it hurts a bit more seeing that these people just wanted a wholesome game. They just wanted something cute to fawn over and play after they're work or something. Instead, they just got scammed in broad daylight. And I don't even know if David's going to actually have to face consequences. He just keeps running away. I just hope that they get the justice that they deserve and we can find a game even better than this absolute dream. Thank you so much for watching until the end. I really appreciate it. And if you want a great alternative to an energy drink that has flavors such as grandma's ashes and titty milk, I'm not even joking, these are real flavors. Be sure to go to GamerSub specifically on September 26th because they'll be dropping their new collection, Fixed Me, in which where you buy a tub like grandma's ashes, you get a free shaker cup. And it's a really good looking cup. $25. All you have to do is check out and also get 10% off your total order. You'll find the links in the description in the pinned comment, and trust me, I'm like 5,000.
She asked them if they thought it would be rude to tell him he wasn't allowed in the photos. Yeah, that would be rude. Yeah. I'm gonna go with that's rude. They ended up telling her to talk to the groom about it because it wasn't supposed to give advice. I would say like good friends would tell the bride that she's being like a little unreasonable, really unreasonable. But like she's the bride, we have to like tiptoe around. I would say this is not something I would ever admit out loud. She took their advice and asked the groom the same question, to which he replied it wasn't Tyler's fault, and he was his best friend. He wanted him to be in the photos no matter what. Yeah, and there's like, it just goes back to this whole like, oh, you don't go with my aesthetic. Who are you trying to impress? By Facebook friends? The bride was mad. I think she thought he would be okay with it, would agree to not let Tyler be in photos, and wasn't expecting him to disagree. Everyone is as shallow as us. You know, I talked about this in a video recently, but there's this rumor that went viral because he learned sign language for his vows so that his bride's parents could understand him. So he did his vows, you know, out loud. He was speaking them, and he also did them in sign language at the same time.
That's rad.
It just goes to show that she doesn't really care about the wedding and everything that comes with it. She cares more about appearances. She raved to her bridesmaids and was saying how it was unfair that her photos had to be ruined because of this guy. How he would make all the photos look unsymmetrical or something. I'm sorry, but this is so embarrassing.
Wow.
What if you had like a grandmother that was like in a wheelchair, which is often like, it's a very common thing. I've literally never heard of someone having an issue with someone in a wheelchair being in photos. Like, aren't you happy that they're there to begin with?
Come on now, dog.
Bombastic side eye. My mom wasn't too sure the exact reason because she just kept saying it was unfair and she thought the chair was clunky and would look out of place among the rest of the wedding party. Okay, but like, listen, as like a wedding photographer, like I used to do this for a job, there are ways to like make it symmetrical. Like everybody could be sitting down so everyone's on the same plane. You could be sitting at the front so that it's like, you know, shorter to taller, right? Like there are ways around like making it symmetrical if that's really the issue. This is such a non-issue, and quite frankly, like if I were the groom, I would have the ick. This whole thing probably would fight so much. My mom genuinely thought they would cancel the wedding. She had never seen them fight so much in their whole relationship of 4 years. It's not surprising. I would really not like to find out that like my significant other, like my soon-to-be husband or wife, had these feelings for my best friend. And also to find out that they're really shallow, like weird. The groom eventually talked to his dad about it. I don't know a whole lot. I know that his dad was the one who convinced him to ruin the wedding because couples fight. And if you think this is big enough to ruin your relationship over, then it wasn't a good relationship in the first place. I actually think it really is that deep. So, day of the wedding came around, and from what I was told, there was no fighting or resentment visible during the ceremony, and everything went as planned. Tyler obviously was in the photos and none the wiser to the bride's dislike of it. The bride, though, only posted photos that didn't have Tyler in them, and crossed out of the photos that didn't have him in it. I don't know much after all this, but my mom said the groom was pissed AF because of this and drunkenly ranted to his group, Tyler included. I'm pretty sure this is the first time he heard of this. Tyler was pissed, rightfully so, but he was very mature about it and didn't say anything to the bride, even though she would have deserved it. I don't know what they're like behind closed doors, but they are clearly putting up a front in public and haven't said anything to anyone else about it. Tyler and some of their friends have spoken to the bride once since this whole rant, and the bride still has posted pictures with Tyler in them, though the groom did on his own Facebook. Ooh, that's embarrassing. I mean, it goes back to like my theory that this is all about appearances, right? It's definitely a bombastic side. Someone added an interesting comment. The groom should have dumped the bride before the wedding. Red flag. It's sickness and hell. Good luck with that. So imagine if this is how she feels about the groom's best friend being in a wheelchair. How is she gonna feel like, God forbid, something happens when the groom is, you know, in a wheelchair or like has mobility issues or like a multitude of other health problems? I feel like this is a sign. and not a good one. Yeah, my bridezilla meter is definitely going off. Let's rate them, shall we? She's like an 8. Like, she's not the worst I've heard, but she's definitely like an 8. Let me know if you agree. We got some more bridezilla drama coming right at you. My older half-sister didn't invite me to her child-free wedding. I'm 19. But she still accepted a gift. All right, we got some text messages. Goody. View the wedding registry, and she sends a link. Is this your wedding registry? What else could it possibly be? Why are you sending it to me? You're my sister? I'm not invited. It's super common for people who cannot make it to get a small gift. Okay, no. It's people who can't make it also get a gift, not people who are not invited. I love how she no. Let's call this what it is. You didn't invite your own sister, but is now holding it over her head that your sister owes you a gift. Can't make it. It's equal to. It's not like at the most maybe a card or like flowers, but even then flowers are expensive. That's kind of a slap in the face, like to not get an invite at all and be related to the bride. Yeah, it's customary if you can't make it, not if you aren't invited at all. Your sister is to be calm, and she was not trying to get you gifts for the wedding regardless of whether you were invited. That is not soon after and wanting to marry. While I tried to pursue I can still happily and proudly say I had a fairy tale, wonderful husband, and the best 10 years of marriage I could have ever asked for, including 3 glorious children. I just got goosebumps. So, our wedding plan was was our evil stepmother. My husband and I have always been geeks. Comic books, sci-fi, gothic, etc. We are totally off-center. When we settled on a Victorian gothic theme, we knew exactly what we wanted. A blood red flowing gown for me, him in a black Victorian style suit and tails, roses and black orchids, a black wedding cake with silver spider web designs flowing down it, and the perfect outdoor setting at a mountain resort, which was an important location for us. A tragedy occurred there. We had before, and we wanted to provide the family better memories of the location with our special day. That is very thoughtful. Sometimes people want to wait for certain days where there's been like tragedies, certain places where there's been tragedies, but I actually really like the idea of like sharing those dates and places with something good. In this regard, we were low maintenance. We already purchased our clothes. I had to score this 3,000 red crimson dress with details and a huge train for only $500. A friend of ours was a DJ and asked to give his services as a wedding gift, and a friend who was an ordained minister agreed to dress in Victorian era priest garb to marry us. We had a lot down, but we needed help with how to decorate. So we went to a local bridal fair to search for potential vendors that we would love. In it, we found wedding planners display area. She had a model setup that was really identical to the vision we had in our head. Meaning, our plan was to call her. Fell in love with our vision instantly. She agreed it was so similar to her mock table that clearly our collaboration was meant to be. Scheduled the date and the deal was done. We happily signed the contract with her. Wedding planner jackpot. So blindly provided. Card information for our budget account. Account information we set up. All seemed well. Please bear in mind we had a modest budget of $1,000 expecting extra that is we had so many professionals as friends in various fields that the offers for their services were pouring in, so we counted them as wedding gifts. They had no need to bring a present when they were willing to do a job for free. It was a blessing. With that in mind, we started finding it odd that the wedding account started to swell $1,000 here, there, etc. Out of nowhere, we came in charge of $1,000 for flowers, $1,000 for God knows what, etc. For our opinion of what was being supplied for our wedding. My fiance had enough. She'd been buying up all the supplies for the wedding and reception and signing off things like flowers, which we didn't get final input on, and centerpieces, again, no input, and simply had the flowers. My fiance, needless to say, gave her a mouthful over that as a not part of the contract. As the damage was already done, getting refunds for the wedding was impossible, so we were stuck. I mean, was it in the contract she would have to like check with you first? Because then that is breach of contract. Luckily, it was within the realm of our vision, but Eve had gone overboard. Due to the overdraw she caused, we had to tail a loan to cover the cost. A loan that sank to the tune of $8,000. But that wasn't even the worst part. Oh yes, there's more. The wedding day rolled around. My fiance and I had decided that the debacle with the wedding planner was not worth the stress and agreed to just move forward. This day was a decade in coming for us, and we just wanted to focus on the happiness. The night before the wedding, Eve called to finalize the time the crew would come in with her to decorate. She wanted to start decorating at 11 that morning, both the mountain lodge location for the wedding and its reception area. The wedding was at 2, and her crew was her sister, and her mother.
We're an unusual family.
Yeah, that's not gonna work. You won't have the time to get that much ready for the ceremony with the size of this place and the people. But the lodge said they would open the place for us as early as 6 a.m. for decoration, so any time from then on would give you a bigger window. He never once said they had to be there at 6 a.m., only that it gave me the opportunity to start working. But she replied, I refuse to make my contract any earlier than today. Okay, then hire someone. This absolutely is your wedding planner is not your permission. I'm sorry. But she's gonna be walking on eggshells and doing exactly what you want. My fiance was a passive man, not confrontational. This was the only time I heard him angry or stern when he bluntly said, I'm sorry if I come off as a groomzilla, but you signed the contract the same we did. The one that says you work for us. We cannot control that you didn't come prepared with more people. You need to be there earlier or there will be a problem. Reluctantly and angrily. But you guessed it, that's still not the worst part. Allow me to preface the worst part with some backstory. I have a child from a previous marriage. The man was never actively part of her life. My fiance raised her from diapers until he died. Our daughter was 9 years old at the time of our marriage. walked down the aisle with me in her street clothes, and I couldn't have cared less. She felt better. She wasn't caught, and she was safe. That's all I was worried about. And that's exactly how you should feel. The ceremony went off without a hitch. Everything was as perfect as I hoped it would. But in the receiving line, I was told disturbing news. The heat sickness episode happened only 15 minutes before the wedding. When Eve got wind of it, she snapped, angry, turned to God, and but oh, how enraged. We became. We cornered her privately, to which she said the guests were lying. One of the guests that heard her was my 65-year-old sweet little Southern Baptist grandmother. I don't care if we were married here or got married at a courthouse next week to give my daughter time to feel better. I snapped. You do not control anything about my daughter and her. She is the priority. In the scheme of things, lady, you are friggin' nothing. I recognize that weddings are such a major expense and not everybody can afford it. And I would rather have them there. You know, like it's not a big deal for me. We going on a boat. It's actually cool. Like this video will have so much later. I'm so excited for my bachelorette. You know, Barbie is so fun. And like I'm so excited. I expect my friends to walk out with like so it's not a big deal. Okay, I'd rather just have a family. I'm such a better person than this bride. That's not what I'm trying to say. I just think that like being in so many weddings recently, I recognize the financial burden that a lot of people have, especially when it starts with having a destination wedding. It's too much to ask. I do not want to be a burden, and I'm certainly not looking against it. It's just it is what it is. This really hurts me because I've never seen that side of her. I feel with our friendship. You're not saying you're not going to go. I'm just saying you're not going to go or hurt you. I want to stand by the things in my life. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. I've taken a step back from our friendship and I've taken some space. I don't even know about how to have this conversation. Even then, it ended up in a fight last time. Does anyone have any advice? All right, so Brian is actually married. She is actually married. As someone who is married and has before she comes out. I just sighed to myself and went back to the bathroom. This time to loudly open the door to alert them I was coming so they could stop talking about the ring. Mark had worked so hard to make this surprise for me, and I couldn't ruin it for him. So when he did pop the question, I just had to act surprised to spare his feelings. To this day, I don't have the heart to tell him I knew for months that Ellie had ruined the surprise. Obviously, I said yes, and the wedding planning began. Mark and I had talked for years about having a non-traditional wedding, just having my friend who was ordained for us. I'm very much an introvert, so having a day was not a priority for me. Okay, just me and Mark signing the paperwork in our PJs, but unfortunately, witnesses to be legally married. Going to the courthouse, and instead, she insisted we needed a wedding. Before I could even think about it or agree to it, she got her search sent over availability and messaged pretty distant relatives. Wedding ceremony free. I had never met this person before, and I felt very uncomfortable having a stranger at my wedding. Free, so it was hard to say no. Church also gave me, but I was saying for a discount. Again, it's hard to that it's her family and we shouldn't exclude them. And her tantrum was so unbearable that we agreed and added them to the list to shut her up. You know, the irony is that push and push and push to get like invited. She probably won't even show up. It's so annoying. Mark told me not to worry because he had a plan. We ended up picking a date that lined up with when all of her distant relatives so none of them could make it to the wedding. See, with situations like this, it's almost like you invite people to your wedding, you just like, they also like don't like them, and then it's like, oh, money on me. Because we embraced them, many of them felt welcome. So it did actually end up working out. Really sucked, and we felt it. We didn't have to play She demanded I send her pictures of me in the dress, and I said no. I was afraid to show Mark or worse, post it. I told her I didn't see any pictures of myself in it at all. She would have to wait for the day. Now, for the wedding. When it came time for pictures, Ellie made herself a photographer. We hired a family friend of mine who wants to take our pictures. She offered to do it for free, but we really believed that it was a service and she would be paid. But the photographer posed us, Ellie would write it on the front of the phone. Our attention person and not at the camera. If I'm paying someone for a service, I would also be like, okay, no, sorry, can you just let the photographer do their job? Or the photographer can also say, listen, can you just let me do my job? I see a lot of people pleasing going on in this one. She refused to look at the camera. Ellie threw a tantrum and sometimes she back into place so she could get her. Why? It's so stupid on the phone. It's so stupid. Just wait for the photos. God. She always stepped on my dress process, and what I wanted about it stated that it wasn't her fault. At the actual ceremony, she sat in the front row with her phone the entire time. She silently and stayed in her seat, so I can't complain. Before the reception began, I took pictures of the wedding, and I was the wedding before I even got a chance to. This was a small wedding, so not a lot of people knew about it. I know how to announce it, but she stole that opportunity. And not only that, but she posted the worst pictures because no one was looking at her phone, and no one was properly posed.
That's gonna be a yikes for me, dog.
During the reception, we had the cake set up in the corner. It was so tucked away that there was no space to make a cake. We stepped back when the photographer cut the cake and took pictures, and we screamed, "Wait, I'm not ready!" So what? While running across the reception hall trying to load up her camera. Oh my lord. I'm trying to see it from her perspective, where where she wanted a daughter. Obviously her son means a lot to her. She wants to be involved. But like this kind of overbearing, controlling attitude and like behavior, this is how you get estranged. We ignored her and she missed the picture she wanted. She demanded the photographer move out of the way so we could be in the so she could she wanted to be able to share it on social media. As her picture, she took her seat at the sweethearts table, not where she was actually supposed to sit, and demanded to be served. My husband and I decided to just serve the cake and use that as our time to walk around and mingle with everyone. Ellie was pissed she did not get to sit and eat the cake with her baby. We did not care, finally. After the reception, we had a barbecue at my in-laws' house. We did this to accommodate my family and his family drinks enough for both families. My family had an alcohol-filled reception. Ellie got absolutely shit-faced. Oh lord. Oh goodness. She drank to the point of throwing up, was an absolute roller coaster of emotions, cornered guests to flirt and cry and joke with, and God only knows what else. I've never seen her that drunk before. She was absolutely for the whole barbecue, she was in her white dress, even after I changed out of mine. Hold on. She was in a white dress? How did I miss that? You didn't tell me that before. My husband and I had planned on spending the night at his parents' house in his childhood closer to the airport and catch an early morning flight to our honeymoon. After the reception, I was absolutely very done with people and annoyed with Ellie's behavior all day, and I wanted to shower and go to bed. This is honestly my worst nightmare. The fact that your wedding day, like afterward, you're not like just like in complete bliss and like day to end because it was such a beautiful experience. That is heartbreaking. I'm so sorry to hear this happen to you. You didn't even want this wedding. You didn't want the 50-person wedding. You would have been fine without it. That's I'm sorry to hear. I'm a very modest person, and I don't want to be in my PJs in front of other people. I don't wear anything super sexy or anything like that, but definitely not something I'm comfortable wearing in front of my in-laws. Before showering, I made sure my in-laws were in bed, and when I got out of the shower, my husband made sure she was in bed. I came out of the shower, we went to his room, and I began changing into my robe and into my PJs. While we were changing, my mother-in-law burst through the door. My chest was completely exposed, so I grabbed the robe and wrapped it around myself. To my horror, my mother-in-law was not only in the room, but in the room with her phone camera open, trying to get us to begin opening presents because she wanted pictures and didn't want my family friend hogging all the pictures. I was absolutely horrified and couldn't even speak. I curled up in a ball of crying and just my husband was also speechless, and he was also changing and partially exposed. I mean, the fact that you were just changing, I thought that there was something else going on. Even this is like so invasive. My mother-in-law was too young to notice this fact. My husband and I just said, he grabbed a towel and yelled at his mother to get out of the room and not come back. He promised that he was special day. Oh, absolutely not. No, she gotta go. You know, you can do those things out of love and like having a relationship and wanting to be involved. There are also plenty of mothers and fathers out there that couldn't be bothered to want to. But to barge in when someone is changing and to not apologize for that blatant invasion and to then somehow believe that in that situation, giving Nard, well, he was right. She was so drunk, she had no idea what she walked in on. The next morning, while we were trying to get out the door to catch our flight, she began crying about the way she was treated the night before. My own son yell at her the way he had the night before. I feel like in this situation, type of mom. She spends much of our visits complaining about how her sons don't make enough of an effort with her, guilt-tripping them, and repeating her favorite phrase, "I raised you better."
Such a lovely person.
Despite never being a good enough parent or having a consistent role in her son's lives, as they were raised by their dad. Luke, his brother Corey, and I last saw Linda the weekend after Mother's Day. I won't go into details of that visit because it's not relevant to the story, but it was enough for me to tell Luke that it was my last Mother's Day with her. One thing that did happen was Linda asking us what we were doing for Luke's bachelor party. Corey said that he and Luke's groomsmen rented an Airbnb and invited their closest friends for a night of drinking, cards, and hanging out until they fall asleep. Luke's idea for a perfect bachelor party was to find Corey. Linda novelly remarked, "You guys are going to invite Steve, her longtime boyfriend, right?" Linda has said more than a few outrageous things over the years, but this one surprised They are afraid of like what she might do, and I can understand that definitely. Like I've been in a similar position. Like that's all a control tactic. Not be able, be prepared to be the one to put up the boundaries, and be prepared to be a one-woman army to keep those boundaries in place. Your fiance needs to sort through his trauma, either with you or better yet, with a professional. I'm very confused as to why he would want to be around her at that point. He's super messed up for doing that. I would have a hard time having a relationship with someone like that as well. I can understand the internal conflict. I think that it's totally fair for you to make it clear that his mother needs to be kept intact. And unfortunately, it also kind of seems like you might have to be in a position to do that. It also sucks that she seems to be someone that is around on like special occasions as well. So like ordering and special occasions. This person, I don't know. You wouldn't be the able. Setting boundaries is not an able move. I think that's all I can This is how to break up in 10 seconds or less. My boyfriend keeps letting his friends go on our dates. Oh, he's 22. My boyfriend, I think I have a crush. He's like a brother to him, saved his life once, etc. But he's on all our dates. I even brought one of my And like I of course didn't know that because I didn't know it was a date. And she would always do that, and I didn't want that. Like I wanted to hang out with my friend alone. Yeah, it just like it got weird. Like honestly, that's honestly why we are not friends anymore. Because she kept doing that, maybe as a way of like dangling it in front of me. I don't know. I don't know what that was about, but I did not like it. I fail to understand why Liam wants to be there on your dates. I don't understand why he's confused, but it's very inappropriate for me. Well, let alone your boyfriend him all the time. So we basically get into it, and it gets to the point where I tell him our dates and about everything he told me Liam went through. Like a brother to Xavier, mom, dad absent, no siblings, friends, or girlfriends. And then Xavier looks like he's and Liam gets angry, saying like, what did you tell her? This is all and really awful at the same time. It turns out none of what Xavier told me was true. I beg your pardon, Mommy. Okay, then why does he want to know her? Liam has a fiance, has a real brother and sister, and his mom isn't Liam DMs me, basically saying that Xavier told Liam that I wasn't with Xavier, and he thought I wanted him. Okay, so like, what is going on, sir? What? He said the reason why he agreed is because his mom was in Europe to finish up her study abroad program, and he had nothing better to do. So Xavier is a flat-out liar, and I'm glad I broke up with him, and I got lied to. Oh well, this was all non-positive events I was expecting. I had to get it out somewhere. Okay, so but why lie though? Why do you want Xavier to know that? Like Xavier has a a little bit of a mini update, little baby update. Did he ever say that he did it? Are you still in love with Liam? What is Liam's take on what happened? He never explained to Liam or me why he did it. But the bottom line and my own feelings on the matter are that he was trying to blame Liam into looking like Liam was Liam's girlfriend's photos or something to break up Liam and his girlfriend. Second runner-up. I personally think that Xavier just did it for a sick game. For X to be gay for Liam. Sadly, I don't think that's the case.
I made myself sad.
But who knows, honestly. Me and Liam have talked every once in a while for the past few days, but I'm definitely not friends with him. I'm not really sure if I can trust him because I don't know enough about Liam to know he's not a lot of things. He's not his fault or anything, but I just don't know the friendship I walk into. Based on what Liam said, he feels baffled. When this topic first came up, he said he wouldn't know why X would want to do something like this, but a tiny bit of him is not really surprised. I don't know what he did before that to earn not surprised, because Liam never really gave me a straight answer. What I take of it is he's very curious about Xavier's intentions. Hopefully this answers questions you might have. It doesn't, honestly. I'm still confused. I still think Liam's a little... I still think Xavier might have, like, a thing for Liam. Like, this is a little messy. I don't know about this one. But why was this a sneaky way of going out on dates with Liam without asking him? Like, that's where I'm at. Because, like, it seems like some sort of cover for something else. Just saying. Only explanations I can think of. Xavier was for some reason afraid of being alone with OP, but was too embarrassed to admit it, so he lied to both of them. Xavier has feelings for Liam and is in denial. Xavier's independent. I don't know, man. No, like, honestly, I agree with the comments, and it's basically saying, like, Liam likes Xavier. Either or, it's a good thing you're not with him anymore. This next one is from the Charlotte's Over YouTube subreddit. Because of the subject matter of this video, I kind of feel compelled to put a little trigger warning for this story, because it does concern flatulence. So, if you're upset by that, maybe this one isn't for you. gassy. Unfortunately for me, almost all his favorite foods contain large amounts of dairy, and he makes absolutely zero effort to avoid dairy products. On the contrary, he probably eats cheese every single day of his life because he loves it so much. Meanwhile, I'm very sensitive to smell. I can't stand it, even if I smell just a little bit of sweat and always wear perfume. I take out the garbage bag on my trash can even when it's half away full because I cannot stand the smell of old trash every time I open the lid. I have fragrance sticks in almost every single room of my apartment and I shower twice almost every single day. I have always been this way, and Jake knows this. How bad is it? Like, it's a normal thing to pass gas around your significant other. Some couples are like really weird about it. It's a normal thing for Mike and I, like whatever. I notice it more when like we're not eating well. Like if we're like getting lots of like it directly coincides with how well you're eating, and also if you're eating like dairy or you get gluten foods, they're also pretty bad at these things. I would say that like, you know, there's certain moments like if we're cuddling on the couch where it's like, dude, can you like just go to the toilet? Like it's clear you need to take a dookie. Like just don't do it around me, you know? Go in the basement. Go to your man cave, stick it up as much as you want. If you insist on eating dairy and gluten, just spare me, please. In the beginning of our relationship, his gassiness was never that big of an issue because we didn't live together. And also, we didn't spend the night together that often. Even if he did fart back then, it wasn't a big issue because I usually had it anyway when his gas problem started. It was usually in the evenings. This is so funny. However, it's become a big problem for me now. A few months ago, Jake got a new job that allows him to work from home. He will work in our living room at the dining table pretty much the entire day. And throughout that day and every night, he will quite literally be sticking up the entire place with his farts. Okay, no. This is no. He either needs to find lactose cheese, and by the way, there is like very decent alternatives. Like I found this lactose-free cream cheese that is like so unbelievably delicious. There's plenty of options. Like just to give you a break, dude. You know, somebody's gassy. It is what it is, but it's like all the time. For breakfast, he usually eats yogurt along with a coffee and regular milk. Okay, no. For lunch, he will usually eat a grilled cheese sandwich, and for dinner, if I'm not cooking, he will make pasta with a heavy cream-based sauce. And for dessert, he usually has ice cream, a milkshake. In other words, a recipe for a very sticky disaster. You know, he's just really being inconsiderate at this point. You know what's something funny that we do? Is that when Mike is like a little bit like inconsiderate with his farts, like it's such a and honestly, just that little payback, it's effective. Like I'm not gonna lie. His farts smell like rotten eggs mixed with decaying corpses. No. Okay, no. This is like such a turn on, right? Like because it's like how am I supposed to be attracted to you if you just smell like dookie all the time? It is by far the worst. It is vile. It makes me gag almost every single time. Because it's so inconsiderate about me. You can't help it. Like you definitely can help it. You can go to the bathroom and do it there, or you can just withhold it. Or like put it back inside. Because he's basically just pooing all over the place and like not even considering the fact that it's disgusting. Maybe he likes the smell. I come home from school or work and I can smell his farts through almost all my scented sticks. Every time I enter my apartment now, I want to gag and leave right away. Almost every night, Jake farts in bed, making my duvets and smelling like one time it was so bad I threw up. He even farts in his sleep, and the scent of it has woken me up several times. At this point, like you either need to have a very frank with your boyfriend. It's not just like, oh, it's like it's human nature or whatever. Everybody's stanky, but like I feel like it's very inconsiderate. And like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna be in a business meeting and let it rip like that? go insane. I'm considering either breaking up with him or forcing him to move out if this doesn't work. I think that this is about a much deeper issue. Not wanting to minorly inconvenience himself, but he's willing to massively inconvenience you. It's not a small thing. It's about being considerate of your partner. And it just kind of seems like it's weird that it's affecting you this much. Okay, so we added Jake tried to take black pills. They had bad side effects. They had bad side effects. Stalker, man. Like, what? This is a problem. Or, you know, like, he's lactose intolerant. You should, you know, he won't take pills that help. He doesn't care that it's affecting you. Throw the whole man out. This is toxic behavior. And get stop kidding. This is gonna make you resentful. It can't be doing anything good for your ability to have spicy person. I can't imagine wanting to. No, seriously, that is the thing, right? Like, how could you possibly be attracted to someone that smells like that? That is like major, right? Like, if you're trying to like get in the mood and like he can't seem to control himself or doesn't want to control himself, how would you ever want to like be intimate with this person? Please get him out of your place and hire a professional to fumigate and deep clean so you can have a sense of peace again. Those are particles. They're food particles, dude. Okay, Oki responded, we have not been intimate for a while now because of this. He's expressed to me that he does feel upset. It's been affecting me so much. And he's trying to see if he can find substitute products for the dairy he consumes, like for example. But they've never been hits, and he always reverts back to the regular dairy products. Okay, no, he's just not trying. Like, I know of like plenty of like vegan cheese and vegan products that are like really, really neat. Like, you have to find them, obviously. You have to go to like specific stores, and they could be a little bit pricey. But like, this is gonna affect not just your relationship, but like every other relationship too. If you're confused, it's not because of his bars. He disregards your concerns and has made living together a terrible experience. Because if you want to stay with him after he's indicated he won't do anything to change the situation, then you'd get the future you deserve. Stay a man that respects you. Yeah, I agree. You're on the able here, and Oki updated the issue is bigger than Jake's parts. It's the fact that he doesn't seem to take my discomfort into consideration at all, and is putting way too little effort and makes zero compromise to actually try to change the situation for me. Double standard. Like, he expects you to adjust your living, your lifestyle, save him, and making good hell. But he refuses to change the few things that would make it a little easier. Thank you for the wake-up call. I was he either changes his diet, put in serious effort, like seriously, or I will break up with him and make him move out. Or physically in my name. So, a lot has happened. You're living with a woman now. You're not living alone. There are things that need to be adjusted to accommodate. Okay, so she's listing some examples. For example, during my last birthday, I wanted this one cake. My absolute favorite carrot cake from this local bakery that I love. That was my one and only wish for Jake as my birthday. Finally rolled around. Jake had gotten me a different one. His reasoning, he didn't like carrot cake. Oh no. No. He got me a chocolate cake. Don't get me wrong, I love chocolate cake. For my birthday, I wanted that one specific carrot cake, but Jake didn't get it for me because he didn't like it. See, this is part of the bigger issue. This is one example, and there are many more, but I feel like that is a clear throughout our relationship. He never takes me nor my feelings into consideration and only does what he wants. As someone who commented on my original post, with, let alone my family with, I deserve better than that. So I sat Jake down and had a serious conversation about everything that's how he's placing consideration of me, mainly highlighted by his flatulence. It was driving me absolutely nuts, and it was making me consider breaking up with him if he didn't change his behavior. But throughout our conversation, so bad also his house and that he should be able to fart in his own home. Yeah, but like not 24/7. The fuck? If it's that bad, there's something wrong. Like there's literally something very, very, very wrong.
I'm afraid you are the sickest man in the United States.
I finally pointed out to him that it is in fact not his house because everything is in my name, and if he wasn't going to leave, I would call the cops. Let's see. After that, he started packing his bags and left the apartment. I told him he could come back later and get the rest of his stuff, which thankfully he did. After he left, I made it clear no one's return. After he left, I broke down crying. Guys, couldn't consider you in told me she only found out that morning when she stopped by Sarah's to pick something up from her place that Sarah had borrowed, and Jake was there. She told me she didn't know Jake and Sarah were dating, but Sarah's apartment only has one bedroom, and Lily told me the couch didn't was being slept on, so you can do the math. I felt beyond betrayed by both of them. Sure, this doesn't mean they were there when Jake and I were still together, but it's still very weird, and it still feels like a betrayal for them, and to likely get together immediately after we broke up. Long story short, I got pretty frank with Lily that night. We don't goes straight to the dome. And I had probably one of the worst hangers of my life the next day. In my hungover stupor, I decided to send Sarah a long text where I told her I knew about her and Jake, and I couldn't believe she would do something like that. Our friendship was over. Oh, and to tell Jake, he needs a big fat real bad. Yeah, honestly, she can have him. Like, I bet you anything, she's not gonna be able to stand it. And if she can stand it, that's yucky. Lily stayed over at my place, and she texted in our group chat with all our friends that what Sarah and Jake did to me was not okay, and they were incredible jerks. Both Sarah and Jake left the group chat an hour later. Thankfully, our friend group all sided with me once I explained everything. We hopped on a group call. After a few more weeks of crying and getting shit-faced with my friends, I was able to get relatively over my feelings of hurt and betrayal and decided to move on with my life. I had cut Jake and Sarah out of my life, and that was that. Or so I thought. Around 2 weeks ago now, I suddenly got a text from Sarah asking me if we could meet up. I was of a mind to go tell her to go F herself, but my curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to know what on earth she still had left to say to me, so I decided to agree to meet up with her I appreciated. I told her I wasn't sure if I could forgive her just yet, but I did appreciate the apology. She told me Jake never cheated on me, but she did have a crush on Jake for the longest time, even before we started dating, but that it was clear to her that Jake only ever saw her as a friend. She did drunkenly confess her feelings to Jake before we started dating, but it never led to anything. It was never her intention to get between Jake and I, and was she how crushing on him, which I did sympathize with. Honey, that's because she never smelled him before.
Stinky McStink.
The night Jake and I broke up, Jake immediately went to her, but it was unexpected. She now figured Jake knew she would take him in because of her feelings for him. They did start kind of dating, but Sarah told me she could feel it was very one-sided, but that her feelings for him blinded her for that fact. Jake had been essentially using her for a place to stay after I kicked him out, as she claims. And now she is deeply regretting everything. Not because she now finally realizes she's been used, but because she cannot stand Jake's farts anymore. Yeah, dude. You heard that right. The exact issue that Sarah had laughed at me about when I tried to talk to her about it is now an issue that's haunting her as well.
Pardon me?
She sounded so broken when she told me she couldn't stand it anymore. That Jake's farts are out of control and are causing her to not be able to sleep at night. At first she didn't notice them, but the more Jake settled into her place, the worse it got. In other words, exactly what happened to me. No, this man need to go to the doctor. He need to figure something out because or just be fine with the fact that he's never gonna live with his partner. Or never have a partner that wants to be around that, honestly. She told me she tried to talk to him about it, but he refused to change his eating habits, and she deeply regrets ever judging me about this and regrets letting Jake move in with her. I just laughed. I just had to laugh so hard. It was ridiculous and a full circle moment. She laughed at me about this exact issue, and now I'm laughing at her. Once I was done laughing, I told her I appreciated the apology. There was nothing I could do about it. I was not getting back together with Jake under any circumstances, and he was totally her problem now. I'd warned her through all the stories about Jake that I told her about, and she didn't take them seriously until she started living them herself. I told her although I feel sorry for her, she made her bed, and now she has to lie in it. And that's on period. What the crap? She could kick Jake out if she really couldn't stand it anymore, but I would never do that. I pretty much left when she started to cry, and I tried to turn our home into a big pity party for her, and I had enough. I went home and blocked both her and Jake in case she would kick Jake out and he would try to contact me, and called Lily up again for another girl's night to gossip and have drinks. Ooh man, those giggles must have been top tier. Got she faced again, totally worth it. OP added a few things, essentially saying that she's cut both Sarah and Jake out. She's going on a date with Lily's twin sister soon. OP is bye. Fingers crossed it goes well, bestie. And then she also wanted to add that lactate pills don't really have bad side effects. So that whole story was kind of BS. No pun intended. Honestly, this was one of the most satisfying yet disgusting posts I've ever read on this channel. Thank you for sharing, New Goose 7437. Subscribe! This is the wedding in 10 seconds. Am I the a-hole that pulled out of my sister's wedding due to her injuries? And by the way, if you're not subscribed yet. So for background, Stella and I are identical twins. 29 years old. We both will be 30 when her wedding is. Connor and she was me when I was 30 when her wedding came around. Ooh, this sounds like revenge. We got our drinks. We got it. Despite my best efforts to keep it secret, my parents have a they're no longer comfortable with you as maid of honor because it won't look good to the hears about the divorce. You can be a bridesmaid, but you can't mention the divorce or your conditions at all during the wedding events.
What year is it?
I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. I was stunned and I felt tears in my eyes. Stella started crying too and she tried to spin it in a good way. This is way less stressful for you, so it's a good thing. Mother-in-law has already approved my BFF as my maid of honor, so please don't make this any harder. Oh, Lord. Honestly, after hearing stories like this is another reason why I'm not having a bridal party. I chose not to have one. I have, my friends who are technically my bride tribe who are gonna be speaking at the wedding, but the idea of like ranking them, like you're essentially saying that you love one more than the other. I don't. I love all my best friends. They've all been in my life for a very long time. I love them all equally, and I just don't think it's fair to them. Like, I think that these kind of politics ruin friendships. It's a lot more trouble than it's worth.
All my friends just get me into fights and trouble.
And also, back to the story, is that a thing where you can't have a maid of honor that's divorced? I didn't realize that was a rule.
Could it be
If this is a rule at church, that's one thing. But if it's just like an optics thing where they're embarrassed about the fact that OP is divorced, that's an entirely different thing. I knew that I couldn't possibly stay there through an entire meal. I had to process all this new info alone. I didn't speak it. I just paid for my wickedly expensive A few hours ago, I texted Stella that I was not coming to her wedding party at all. That was my decision.